Hi, it's Show back with another video. Today I wanted to cover the goalkeeping situation at Manchester United. Recently, David De Gea, last few games at the start of the season, has played particularly well, has looked somewhere near his best, has made some important saves to keep us in the game. And then Dean Henderson, who is very much touted to be the number one at the start of this season from things that I've seen in the media, unfortunately had that COVID problem where he was suffering from symptoms long-lasting, lingering symptoms, which affected his reactions and those types of things. So he was taken out of the firing line and obviously had to rest up before he's come back to training now. So it's very much at the forefront of conversation again. It will rumble on while they're both together at United, I would imagine. Hopefully this is a season where it gets put to bed one way or the other, especially as we approach another year less on David De Gea's contract, and potentially another year of frustration with Dean Henderson. Maybe he wants to look elsewhere. Either way, there'll be progression there. So I imagine this will be sort of the last full season of this kind of seesaw of who's the better goalkeeper or who should be Manchester United's number one. So what I just wanted to sort of discuss was maybe some of their qualities, but the fact that what my opinion is on both players, how I sort of feel with heart and head about the situation, and where I think United should go, at least in the short term with this. So just to begin with, we're looking at contracts. David De Gea, 350 grand a week, highest paid goalkeeper, one of the highest paid players in the Premier League in the world. That was a reward in the back of several seasons of just immense quality, playing in a team that struggled somewhat defensively, and so was conceding a lot of chances, because it was very much what we consider prime De Gea at that time. He was obviously pulling out worldie save after worldie save, and he got a reward on the back of that with that massive contract. Now it's just unfortunate timing that since he's signed the contract, his form's dipped, and he's had numerous high-profile errors in some big games as well that have drawn a spotlight onto the goalkeeping situation that previously there was never a spotlight there at all. It was very much first name on the team sheet, arguably, for David De Gea. So this, we think of some of the errors that he's made. I'm just going to list off the top of my head, just so in terms of United fans' perspective, what's in the forefront of my mind. I remember there was one in the quarter final of the Champions League where he played Barcelona, and Messi had an easy shot and he fumbled it. There was a game against Everton where he just dawdled on the ball for too long and then just kicked it against, I think it was Calvert-Lewin, against the striker, and it ricocheted back into the net. There was I think when Watford were back in the Premier League maybe a couple of seasons ago, I think it was Watford, there was a moment where it was just kind of routine catch. It sort of bounced into the ground at his near post and he fumbled it and it went into the net. And the other high profile one that comes to mind is the Mason Mount one in the FA Cup semi-final. Now, I think we would have lost that anyway, but it's not an excuse. He very much should have saved it. It was a tame shot, and there was very much a lot of sort of those handling errors, where it's just routine goalkeeping. As in, even an average goalkeeper has obviously a much higher percentage of saving those because they're just a goalkeeper's bread and butter. So it was very much appeared to be like a concentration thing. He still pulled off the odd worldie save, which sort of, I guess, in a sense, kept the pressure off for him a bit. He had periods of good moments in the season. I think the Romero dynamic, when we had Sergio Romero, was a good one. I thought he naturally might have started to return to his best form at some point, and Sergio Romero not going to challenge him for number one. But then if you look at United's squad now, we're very much in a win now situation. We have got to win. We have got to win trophies. And if he's going to cost us in certain games, then that's hugely problematic. So Dean Henderson was brought back. He had a wonderful season at Sheffield United. Only made like one error against Liverpool, but for them, every single game was very, very solid. One of their better performers before we brought him back last season. And when he sort of got put into the team early on in the cup games, he looked very good. Made a couple of like really good saves, and you thought, yeah, he looks ready for the challenge. He looks like he's matured. And I think he very much sort of senses maybe a changing of the guard. I think it's like this is a huge opportunity. So there was very much a proactivity in his behaviour, his mannerisms. You see on social media with Dean Henderson, he often puts that soon on top, sort of emoji type things on his messages and posts. And I just think that's a sign of his supreme confidence. I don't know whether it's arrogance, just supreme confidence, and I think it is very much a belief that he can sort of take this jersey, not have it given to him, but just take it from the incumbent, which was David De Gea. Now, the COVID situation is obviously terribly unfortunate for him, but it's allowed David De Gea to sort of get a few games in of success, which is now going to play a part in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's mind in terms of who to start. Now, I'm filming this just before the Newcastle game, which I'll be going to, so hopefully I'm not jinxing this. But yeah, I think De Gea looks like he's got the bit between his teeth this season. I thought he ended last season very well, and he got the Premier League a goalkeeping number one spot got taken away from him at the end of last season. But I was always under the impression that we had like top two and top three very much secured at that point last season. So my opinion of it was that they were giving Dean Henderson Premier League experience and seeing how he would handle it all, but very much full well knowing that if we'd lost a couple of games, it was making absolutely no difference at that point to our standings in the Premier League. And Solskjaer had put all his eggs in one basket, had chosen to go with David De Gea in the Europa League, which we were trying to win. And I think that's very much, a sign that, in essence, he was still trusting David De Gea slightly, at least in the more significant competition at that point for us in the season. Now, if Dean Henderson had taken his chance there and was absolutely terrific in those last 10 games, then which I think maybe they were going to give him a go at the start. So, like I said, there was rumoured to believe that he was going to start number one, but I just thought that he was awful against Liverpool in the Europa League against AC Milan, was it? Like he sort of positionally nowhere on a cross, and then it was kind of a comfortable height, and he sort of collapsed in on it, and it went in. And I think there were some moments of where I think with Dean Henderson, I think he tries to be too proactive. Like, arguably, both goalkeepers, their problem is that their weakness is the other person's strength, and vice versa. But that's not good if you're not a partnership. Like in a centre-back partnership or a midfield partnership, that works really well, and you can sort of balance each other out. But in a goalkeeper, obviously, you want to try and have as many, a much of a complete package as you possibly can. So with Dean Henderson, I think his weaknesses clearly are the fact that he's too proactive. Like, he wants to rush off his line too much. He wants to come for crosses too much. He has to be involved. He seems like a guy that can't just sit still. And I just think, there are pros to that where, I think he's certainly louder than De Gea. I think De Gea is loud, right? I think it's underrated. You see on those sort of pitch match videos, he is louder than you think. I remember that time when we got battered by Spurs and Luke Shaw had a bit of a nightmare, and he was screaming at him a lot. So I think that's a bit of a myth about how vocal David De Gea is compared to Henderson. But I think Henderson, from what I see, he's very much kind of like tries to be a leader there, command his back four a bit more than David De Gea, I'd say. Sweeps more, at least more proactively, comes for crosses more. Positionally in the net, I don't think is anywhere near as good as David De Gea. I think when it comes to one-on-ones and things like that, I just think he drifts too far away from his post. I think David De Gea is much better in terms of where to place himself, puts himself in a best position to make a save. Now, obviously, depending on De Gea's form, some saves he's not been making, but generally very good positionally as a goalkeeper. then if the shoe's on the other foot, you look at David De Gea, like I say, sweeps less, but I have noticed a progression there. I think Solskjaer and the goalkeeping staff have clearly made an effort there where they've said, we need you to be proactive on the sweep. So I've seen some willingness there to do that more. We saw that. I can't remember. I think it was the Wolves game actually, just in the last game, where he came off brilliantly on the sweep and got there in the nick of time. So I think that'll be a feature of his play this season, if we're being honest. But yeah, like with David De Gea, I think the criticism's always been that he doesn't come off his line enough. Not just about the sweeping; it's just he sits on his line too much, and so he invites the crosses quite deep into the goal. It goes very far into the goal, and so if you do get a head on it, a flick, you're asking a lot of your defence, and then if it does go your way and the goalkeeper, you've got a very, very low percentage chance to make a save at that point, because you're still on your line. And then the other couple of moments last season early on, this was I think one of them was in the Europa League, might have been in I can't remember exactly when it was. I think it was when we got eliminated potentially against Sevilla. So when Project Restart happened and we played Sevilla in the semi-final, there was a bit where he needed to come off his line and sort of dive at the ball, but he kind of stands there and sticks his legs out and doesn't commit to throwing himself at the ball. A De Gea lover would probably say something like, well, positionally he's just trying to judge where the shot's coming and be in position to make a save. A criticiser, would be saying, basically he's not brave, he should just be smothering that, smashing into the guy. And I think somewhere in between is definitely the truth with that, and he could be a little bit braver. Now that's the background to the argument, and when it comes to my opinion on it now, I just think De Gea's form showed a willingness to improve off the line. He seems to be back in form with his handling, very much focused, came back early from pre-season. And I think in the short term, we obviously should be sticking with David De Gea in goal, and Henderson is going to have to make way and be the one that features in the cup competitions of less significance. Maybe you could give him a group stage Champions League run out, especially when we hopefully secure a knockout stage spot at that point. But I think David De Gea, through no fault of Henderson in a sense, just through sheer luck on timing, and let's be honest, with players' careers it can just be a timing, just a moment where it's perfect for you, the perfect mixture for you to get in the team or to get a run of games. And I think this has happened for De Gea now, and it's unfortunate for Henderson, but definitely I'd stick with David De Gea for the foreseeable future for the season. Now, in the long term as well, I just think we may as well just wind De Gea's contract down. No one's going to sign a goalkeeper that they think has been on the decline. No one's going to sign him for 350 grand a week, unless it's like a loan deal where it's part funded. So it's a case of just running his contract down, and then at that point, the question is whether his form's good enough to offer him a renewal of contracts with a pay cut, would be my opinion, or whether that's it. That's sort of like the David De Gea era over, and then we should look elsewhere. Now, I'm not sort of in either camp, but I don't mind the latter. I think it's a case of identifying talent. Do you think Dean Henderson is the guy will he be there long enough as De Gea runs down his contract, and to be there to be number one at that stage? Has he got some kind of maybe assurances that we're just going to see De Gea's contract down, and then you're going to be the number one, and hopefully have progressed to the number one Manchester United goalkeeper at that stage? Time will tell with that, but I very much think it's about identifying talent. A bit like when City signed Ederson. Obviously, there's prime goalkeepers out there potentially, like when Liverpool signed Alisson from Roma. But like Ederson, he was playing for. I think he was playing in the Ukraine at the time, actually. Maybe it was like Shakhtar Donetsk. I can't really remember, but Ederson was very much, talked about across European circuits, but less so, obviously, in the Premier League. Not many people knew a lot about him. He was just known for having an absolutely massive kick. Like, he was kind of like famous before he got famous for goalkeeping, just being able to kick it absolutely miles. But that was identifying talent, and obviously he's been brilliant for them. And I just think that's the way United signed David De Gea from Atletico Madrid for the same kind of idea, and we don't want to go Chelsea's route where you overrate a goalkeeper or sign a Kepa for ridiculous amounts and he doesn't work out. I think there needs to be sort of a real understanding of how he'd fit in with the way United play. That would be very much my opinion on the route. I think it should be a case of De Gea, run him out his contract, and then you're scouting during that period, and then we bring someone in, and then we'll always have a Dean Henderson or some other goalkeeper around, that could fill the boots of a bit of experience while potentially this guy develops, if he's not already old enough at maybe the age of 24 or something. So that's just my opinion on it. So lastly, I just will say, David De Gea, I'm a massive fan of David De Gea. I'm very much the heart wants him to get back to his best, be the number one for years to come. I just think some fans forget what he did for the club, especially when we weren't that so good. I think the signing of Rafael Varane is going to be absolutely massive for Manchester United and David De Gea. I just think he'll be able to sweep more. He'll be able to use his pace to get back on strikers, things like that. And we saw in the Wolves game how actually aerially dominant he is. And I think him and Maguire, because they're so aerially dominant, it's going to allow to kind of paper over those cracks of David De Gea in terms of the punching and coming out for those crosses. And so if David De Gea just irons out those mistakes, those basic goalkeeping mistakes, and he literally just cuts that from his game now for this season, then you'll be getting David De Gea back from 2017. There's no change to the way De Gea goalkeeps. It's the exact same. People forget he's not changed. It's literally just things were being saved. He was stopping things. There was no errors, no fumbling errors, handling errors. But the lack of proactivity off his line and the lack of punching from crosses and things like that, there was always an element of that was there. Obviously, when he's supremely confident, I guess maybe he would do a bit more, make sort of better decisions. But it's all about his shot stopping, and he's, like I say, when he's at his best, he's the world's best shot stopper. Him and Jan Oblak are the two best shot stoppers in world football, and I don't think that's an argument personally. I think other goalkeepers Courtois, Alisson, Neuer when he was in his prime. They're good shot stoppers. They're positionally very, very good, and that's very, very important. And they have length, but they're very good at sweeping. They're very good on the ball. They're more of an all-round goalkeeper, and that's sort of where their strengths lie. Whereas Jan Oblak, Hugo Lloris, and David De Gea, they're very much shot stoppers extraordinaire. And so if you've got a team set up that can sort of paper over the cracks of their weaknesses, you can just have that goalkeeper for what he does best. And that's just to pull a rabbit out of the hat, in terms of you concede that one chance, and it's for example, we had Southampton, Armstrong 1-on-1, David De Gea saves it. Wolves, Saiss header, he saves it, comes back out, unbelievable point blank save. Remember the Arsenal game, 14 Premier League saves, a record. Spurs game, another 11 saves he made in that game as well. I mean, the list goes on. He played against Liverpool where he was saving a bunch when Mario Balotelli was back there. I mean, it's just when his career is all said and done, David De Gea, and you really, really think about it, he said his prime years, they were the Messi equivalent of goalkeeping, in my opinion, and it's not talked about enough. It's forgotten about now, the social media age, and I think hopefully he can get back to his best, because when his career ends at Man United, we want to think on him fondly and remember for all those quality seasons that he brought to Manchester United. 4 out of 5 Premier League Team of the Years. Alright, so that'll do it for today. Thanks a lot for listening. Please like, comment, share and subscribe. Please put in the comments as well whether you're Dean Henderson or David De Gea, and also in the future, once David De Gea's contract runs out, who you think United should be getting. Is there a young goalkeeper that you've kept your eyes on, or are you very much in the camp of Dean Henderson staying at Manchester United and taking that number 1 spot? Alright, thanks a lot for listening. Ciao.